Hi, welcome to Suburban Garage Workshop. Today, we're going to come up with a mobile work cart that's going to hold my planer and my table saw. So let's get to it.
This is currently where my Dewalt Planer lives. It's basically a file cabinet sitting on a moving base. It's crude, but it works, but it's not very practical, so I need to find a better solution for this. My table saw sits on this mobile contractor base, and it's great if you want to roll it out in the yard or take it to the job site. It's fine for that. But the problem is that it's hard to move around in the shop. If I open up the legs here and put it on its legs, it doesn't move. I mean, it kind of stays in a fixed location, and it's so if I want to move it out of the way, or I need to move it to one side to fit a big sheet piece of plywood on it to move it around, it's very difficult to move, and it's kind of a pain, and I hate it. And you can see that you're really just dragging it around, and it's not exactly light. So I just need a much better solution for storing both of the saw and the planer. So this is what I've come up with. It's kind of a compact cart. It only measures about 56 inches long and about 19 3/4 inches wide as far as the actual case dimensions. It has 3 drawers for lots of storage. As you can see, the table saw sits on top and it provides outfeed support on the left-hand side. The planer sits underneath, but it's still at a comfortable height that you can feed wood through it. Originally, I thought about designing this with a flip top, kind of putting the cart on a flip, but it takes up so much room and the mechanism becomes so complex that it really didn't fit the needs I wanted it for. Plus, I wanted that top work surface to be kind of a torsion box where I could use it for clamping and for assembly. So that's why I came up with this design. Optionally, the design allows you also to have kind of a flip-up table on the side and a flip-up table on the back. So this really extends the outfeed support and it extends the work surface. So if you're doing bigger clamps or bigger glue ups and stuff of that nature and you need more clamping surface, you can. You can see that both surfaces have miter bar tracks in it that allow you to use clamps and different hold down mechanisms. This is done in a way that you can open this up and still get to all the dust collection. You can use the side pieces there where it's indented for storage, also for hanging, miter gauges and things of that nature. Now, to make this manageable and so we don't have a 3-hour video, I'm going to break this video into a series of discrete parts. So in this video, I'm actually going to build the base and the legs. So what you see here in this picture is what we're going to build today. So this is all built out of 3/4 inch plywood, and you can use regular sanded plywood or baltic birch or whatever you have laying around. I have a bunch of scrap 3/4 inch plywood that I have left over. I'll probably end up having to buy some more to finish the project off, but I'm going to use what I have in scrap first. So like I said, it's all 3/4 inch plywood, and what we're going to do is kind of laminated construction. So this allows me to basically take strips of plywood and laminate them together to build these kind of different legs and beams. And it's really, really strong when you do this. Also, it allows us to kind of do mortise and tendon joinery without having to do mortise and tendon joinery. And it's incredibly strong. It's incredibly self-aligning. And really, except for some pins or some pins I'm going to use just to keep the pieces from shifting during glue up, it's pretty much all glue that's going to hold this together. So let's get to it. I think you're going to find it interesting, and I'm going to be releasing this video in a set of parts or a set of sections. So part 1 is going to be just this base and this frame piece, and I'm building this in the order that I release these videos. So as I'm doing this video, I haven't gotten any further than what you see in this video, so I don't have the whole cart even built yet. So my first step is I'm going to go rummage in my lumber loft up here, and I'm going to pull down every piece of 3/4 inch plywood that I have that I think I could possibly use. And so that's what I'm doing right now. And here's all the pieces I found. So I think I should be able to use most of this to build the base and legs. So we're going to start building the base. So we need to cut some strips that are 2 3/4 and 3.5 inches in width. So over on the table saw, I'm going to rip down some of those pieces. I'm going to rip some out of the big sheets, and I've got some smaller pieces that are slightly oversized that I can rip down. And then I'm going to move over to the miter saw, and then I'm going to cut these to length based on the plans. So this goes pretty quickly. Over my workbench, I'm going to take the pieces and glue them up. But first I've cut these spacers, which I'm going to use for alignment. It's also handy to use this to actually lay out lines on your board so you know where to put the glue on the board so you don't have excess glue in places you shouldn't have it. These spacers are also going to be used to maintain the alignment during when we go to start clamping and nailing, or basically pin nailing everything in place. So here I'm generously spreading the glue on both parts. I'm going to put the glue back, put the parts together, and then use the spacers to maintain that alignment from the edge. And then once everything's in place, I can use the pin nailer, and the pin nailer is there really just to hold the parts in place until I can get the excess glue off, and then get all the parts clamped together. And for some unknown reason, my camera just stopped recording, and I didn't realize it, so I missed the whole end of the glue up of the frame pieces. But through the miracle of video editing, I've gone ahead and shown you all the clamps I have in place. And that's what you do. You clamp it all up using as many clamps as possible. And next we're going to move on to doing the 3 front legs. These pieces are all different. There's none of them that are exactly the same. So it's important to pay attention to the dimensions when you're cutting the pieces, and also in the order that things are glued up. So I usually like to what I did was I printed the plans, and I printed a view from the front and a view from the back, and that really helped me to see kind of what pieces go where and keep everything organized. You really have to label everything. That's the only way you're going to stay organized and get these in the right places, and it's essential that everything be in the right place for all that mortise and tendon joinery to line up exactly where you want it. So let's go ahead and get these built, and we'll zip right through it. So here's all the pieces, and I've cut them in the table saw and the miter saw like they did the base pieces. And what I'm going to do is make a couple more spacers that match up with what I need on the legs. And then I'm going to go through and start laying out the parts using my plans so I can see the front and back, and I can start labeling everything. And what I've done is I've made a mark on each of the papers so I know which leg I'm looking at, so I don't actually look at the wrong one. And I'm just going to go through and glue it and pin it like I did all the other ones, and then apply the clamps. And then looking back at the plans, we're going to go ahead and do the rear legs. And the rear legs are put together the exact same way as the front legs, but they are different, so you can't just copy the front legs. So look at the plans and back at it. We're going to, glue it, pin it, clamp it, and move it on. And with that done, we need to basically make a few more parts. So we need these cross rails that support the table saw, and we need the top 2 rails there that go over the planer cabinet. And these are going to help with leg alignment. So let's go ahead and make those pieces next. And with all the parts cut, I'm just basically gluing and clamping the 2 braces that support the table saw cabinet, because those have to be installed first before we can put the legs in. And with all the parts dried overnight to make sure the glue is fully cured, it's time to give everything a good sanding. This is going to kind of smooth out the parts, the edges, and we're going to remove any glue drips that remain. And with that, I'm going to go through and give everything a kind of a test fit, dry assembly, and make sure everything goes where it's supposed to go. So here I'm putting the rightmost legs in, and then moving on to the middle legs. And that's when I discovered a problem. So what you'll see here, and here I'm going to kind of zoom in, is that the space for the mortise is way too small for the tenon. And I had to go stop and go look at the camera or go look at the plans and come back to it. And then I realized where the mistake was. When I was drawing these plans up originally, and I made the mistake in 2 different spots, as you can see here. When I was drawing these plans up originally, I had played around with different leg sizes, different tenon sizes, different mortise sizes. And I finally decided on doing these full width tenons. But I never changed the dimension in the base frame of that 27-inch piece. So because of that, when I printed the drawings out, the drawings were showing me that mortise should be 1 3/4 when it really should be 2 1/2. So to fix that, I had to make a change. So I fixed it by cutting down the tenon to I think it's 1 3/4 inch from 2 1/2. And when I do that, now it fits perfectly. Now, don't worry about it. The original plan or the drawings that will be provided will be for the full 2 1/2 inches, but I didn't feel like redoing my entire base to make it fit. So I figured I'd just cut the tenon down. And when everything's glued up, this is going to be plenty strong anyway. And here you can see all 4 of the affected legs have been cut down. And I just basically used a Japanese pull saw to do that. Okay, and with that problem corrected, we're going to move on. So I'm going to take that cross piece and I'm going to go ahead and put that in between the two legs. Now what you saw there is I used the actual sander to basically sand down the corners, and that allows it to kind of guide itself into that tenon a little easier. These fit really, really tight, to the point where I have to put it on the ground and use the orange persuader to get him to seat. And once I do that, I'm actually using that square, and it's dead on square, so the alignment is nearly perfect, without any adjustments, and it works really, really well. Okay, with that done, I'm going to glue up each of the legs, and I'm going to hammer them home. Here I'm putting it back on the concrete to give me something to backstop, and I'm hammering those legs in. And like I said, it's a tight fit. No pins are needed here because this thing, I don't think I can disassemble it at this point, even before the glue even dries. It's that strong. So I'm going to repeat the process with the other side, in this case the back. Put the crossbar in, glue everything up, and hammer it home. Next, we're going to install the third leg, so to speak, and that works exactly the same way. This kind of hammers in place, and it's hard to see here because I didn't realize my camera angle was so low, but I'm clamping that other support piece, and here I paused it. Here I've put that support piece here at the top, and that's really just to maintain alignment. I'm not using any glue or pins with that top support piece, just a clamp to hold it in place. And I repeat that on the other one, and once again my angle here is horrible, but here you can see I've clamped it as well. And with that, our frames are done. And with everything glued up and our clamps in place, I'm going to go ahead and let these sit up overnight so the glue can completely cure. And now that I've exhausted the wood glue supply in the entire tri-state area, that's the end of part one. So what we're going to do next is, in the next video, we're going to basically cut out the holes for the torsion bars, and then we're going to put these shelf supports together, and then we're going to move on to the sheathing. And it's the sheathing that really adds all the structure and locks the front face frame and the back face frame together and provides a complete rigid box solution that makes this thing, pretty much a tank. So we'll move on to that in the next video. Anyway, if you like this video, give me a like. If you want to know when the next video comes out, click that subscribe and bell button. I've got to run to the store and buy some plywood so I can build on to the next part, because all you've seen in this video is all I have built. But anyway, thanks for watching. Get out in the garage and do something, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.